My name's Adam, and I live just outside of Halifax, Nova Scotia. I moved into this house about 8 months ago. It's a small 2-bedroom bungalow built in the late 60s. Nothing fancy, but it felt right. Quiet neighborhood. Good price. And after my divorce, I just needed some peace. The thing is, I'm sharing this because I need someone, anyone, to believe me. Because what's happening in this house doesn't make sense. I've tried to rationalize it. I've tried to ignore it. But the truth is, it's only gotten worse. It started with the ceiling. About a month after I moved in, I began hearing noises coming from above my bedroom. It sounded like shuffling. Slow, dragging movements. Not like the sound of pipes or wind, more like someone crawling. I figured it was raccoons or squirrels. This place was old, and the insulation was probably loose. I didn't panic. But when I brought it up to the home inspector, he just looked confused. "There's no attic," he said. "Your roof's sealed tight. Just insulation between the rafters. No crawl space either. There's no room up there." That didn't sit right with me. I heard it every single night, around 1:40 a.m., like clockwork. At first, it's a subtle, soft scratching or the occasional knock, but within 2 weeks, the sounds grew louder, more deliberate, breathing, dragging, scraping. One night, desperate for sleep, I took a broom and slammed the ceiling hard. The noise stopped, but then 3 loud, deliberate knocks responded, right above my bed. I lay there all night, frozen, heart hammering. It wasn't just in my head. Something was up there. The next morning, I went outside and walked around the house, checking the roofline. Nothing unusual, but when I got back inside, I noticed something I'd never seen before. A handprint on the hallway wall. Muddy. Small. Like a child's. But I live alone. No kids. No visitors. I started locking every window. I even nailed the back door shut. Just in case. A week later, I set up a motion-activated camera in my bedroom. I wanted proof. I needed something to show I wasn't losing my mind. The next morning, I checked the footage. Nothing for hours. Just me tossing and turning. But at 1:43 a.m., the feed glitched for 6 seconds. Just static. Then, the camera slowly tilted upward on its own, pointing at the ceiling. I never moved it. I reviewed the clip over and over. I couldn't explain it. I decided to find out for myself. There was a section in my bedroom closet where the ceiling looked off, like it had been patched or painted over. I grabbed a flashlight and a hammer and started cutting through the drywall. Behind it, I found a narrow shaft, barely 2 feet high, running horizontally above my room. Dust everywhere. But inside, I found scratches, long, ragged gouges in the wood, black hair stuck to the insulation, and an old porcelain doll. Its face was cracked, its dress rotted. The eyes were gone, just empty sockets staring back at me. I didn't hesitate. I wrapped it in an old towel and threw it straight into the outside bin. I went to my friend Liam's place that night, told him I had a plumbing issue. But the next morning, I came back and found the doll, sitting on my bed, upright, facing the ceiling. I lost it. I called the police. They came, looked around, checked for signs of forced entry. Nothing. No fingerprints, no footprints, no sign anyone had broken in. One officer suggested maybe I brought the doll back in without remembering. But I remember. I locked the door. I threw it out. The next night, I installed deadbolts, motion sensors, even slept with a knife next to the bed. Then the whispers started. At first, I thought it was the wind, but it wasn't outside. It was coming from inside the walls. My name. Over and over. Adam. I recorded audio overnight. The next morning, when I boosted the volume and filtered the noise, I heard it clearly. He's still here. My hands were shaking when I played it for Liam. He went pale. That voice, that's not yours. That night, I heard it again. But this time, it came from inside my closet. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and opened the door. The crawl shaft I'd sealed was open again, and the doll was gone. I checked the camera footage. At 1:43 a.m., the same static glitch hit. But this time, there was a figure, a crouched shadow in the corner of the ceiling, unmoving, watching me sleep. It stayed there for 2 minutes, then disappeared. That was it. I moved out. I left furniture, dishes, clothes, everything. Just packed a bag and went to stay with Liam. I told the landlord I'd left for personal reasons and mailed the keys. I thought it was over. But 2 weeks ago, in my new apartment, I noticed something. A small hole in the ceiling. Nothing huge, maybe the size of a baseball. But I didn't make it. And I didn't notice it when I moved in. I tried to ignore it. Then at 1:40 a.m., I heard scratching. It's happening again. Last night I heard breathing. This morning I found a doll sitting in my bathroom sink. Not the same one. This one has eyes, and they follow me when I move. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it wants. But whatever wasn't in the attic, it followed me. And now I think it's trying to get inside me. In a quiet neighborhood in Surrey, England, where homes are neatly lined and everyone knows their neighbor's dog's name, something appeared overnight. A house that no one remembered ever being there. It sat at the end of Winmore Lane, where there was once just an overgrown field. The house was an old Victorian-style structure, weathered yet intact. Peeling paint, grimy windows, and an iron gate with vines wrapped tightly around it, like the earth itself was trying to pull it back underground. No one saw trucks, no construction, no for-sale signs. It was just there one morning. James and Claire, a couple in their 30s who lived 2 houses down, were the first to notice. Claire, a freelance photographer, walked past that field daily to take their dog Bruno for a walk. She froze when she saw the house. She returned home pale. "James, there's a house on the corner." James frowned. "What house?" They walked back together. And there it was. He felt a strange pressure in his chest the closer they got. The kind you get when someone's watching you. Bruno whined and pulled hard on the leash, refusing to go near the gate. They asked the neighbors. Everyone was confused. Some swore there'd always been something there, a boarded-up lot maybe. But no one was sure. No records of the property online. No listing on the council registry. Just nothing. Claire, curious, took photos. But her camera malfunctioned. Images came out distorted, colors warped. Every shot had a strange shadow in the upper window, like someone peeking out. James told her to leave it alone. That night, at 3:17 a.m., Claire woke up to find the bedroom freezing. She looked at the window. It was open. They never left it open. Then she heard it. A faint knock. Not at the door. Not on the wall. From the inside of their wardrobe. James jolted awake as she screamed. They searched. Nothing. But in the corner of the wardrobe, written in small, crooked letters, were the words, "You've seen me now." James blamed stress. Claire wasn't so sure. Over the next few nights, the house down the street seemed to change. The door, once closed, was now ajar. A light glowed in an upstairs window. No cars ever parked outside, No people came or went. One night, Claire snapped another photo with her phone while walking Bruno. The image was too dark to see, until she increased the exposure. There was a face in the window. Gray skin, hollow eyes, and an impossibly wide mouth. Like it was stretched open in a silent scream, she dropped her phone. Later, when James reviewed the saved image, the face was gone. And then the dreams started. Both of them, separate nights, dreamt of standing in the hallway of the house, same moldy wallpaper, same creaking floorboards, and always the same voice. You brought it back. Claire started waking up with bruises she couldn't explain. Long scratches down her legs. James woke up one morning to find dirt under his fingernails and his feet muddy, like he'd been outside. They installed cameras in their room. At 3:17 a.m. each night, always 3:17, there would be a 2-second glitch. And when the feed returned, James or Claire would be gone. Vanished. 30 seconds later, they'd be back. Lying in bed, unmoving, breathing heavily. They never remembered leaving the bed. One morning, a neighbor named Harold went missing. He lived directly opposite the strange house. His wife said he went out to check on something around 3 a.m. and never came back. Police searched everywhere. James began researching. He found an archived article from 1891 about a home built on Winmore Field. The same lot. A man named Thomas Venn lived there with his family. Over the course of 3 months, all 5 of his children disappeared. Then his wife. Then the neighbors. When police finally investigated, the house was gone. No remains. Just empty grass. And Thomas Venn was never found. The old photo of the house? Identical to the one standing at the end of the street now. Claire was losing sleep. Her photos now always showed that face, even when she wasn't near the house. One night, she screamed in her sleep and wouldn't wake up. James tried shaking her. Her eyes were open but rolled back, whispering something over and over. The house remembers. He carried her into the car to get help, but as they drove past Winmore Lane, Claire's head snapped toward the house. Her eyes focused. Her whisper stopped. She said in a voice not her own, "We left the door open." The next morning, she didn't remember a thing. James packed their things. They planned to leave town. But the night before they were set to leave, he checked the footage one last time. At 3:17 a.m., as expected, a glitch. Then for 7 seconds, the footage showed their bed empty. But something else was there. A figure, bent backwards, crawling across the ceiling toward the camera. Black eyes, bone-thin limbs, and the same mouth, wide, unnatural, grinning. It leaned down into the camera and whispered, "You can't leave what's already inside." James dropped the laptop. He rushed into the bedroom to wake Claire. She wasn't breathing. Paramedics found no signs of trauma. No explanation. She was pronounced dead at 3:46 a.m. James left town the next day, alone. The house on Winmore Lane? Gone. The lot is empty now, just grass. But last week, in a different neighborhood, miles away, a new house appeared. No one saw it being built. No one knows who lives there. But late at night, the neighbors say they hear something crawling in the walls. And a voice that whispers, "It's your turn now." The McClellan family moved into 47 Hillcrest Lane in late October, just before the weather turned bitter. It was a simple rental, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, old brick exterior. But the price was unusually low for Mississauga. Jeff and Caroline didn't question it too much. They had just had their second child, and budget was everything. The landlord, Mr. Kravis, was polite but odd. When handing over the keys, he told them not to use the basement unless absolutely necessary. "There's some damp, nothing dangerous," he muttered. "Out of sight, out of mind." For the first few weeks, things were normal. Quiet neighborhood, good schools. Caroline stayed home with the baby while Jeff commuted to Toronto. Life seemed stable again. But on the 18th night in the house, Caroline heard something. It was around 2:30 a.m. The baby had been fussing, so she got up. As she padded into the hallway, she heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps, slow, heavy, coming from beneath the floorboards. The basement. She stood frozen. Jeff was asleep. The baby was fine. But those footsteps, they didn't sound like a settling house. They had rhythm, like someone was pacing. She didn't wake Jeff. Maybe she'd imagined it. The next morning, she asked him to check the basement. He found nothing unusual, just an old furnace, some dusty boxes, and a single bulb that flickered too much. Still, something about the air felt off. Thick, like it hadn't been disturbed in years. The real change came in week 5. Their toddler, Ellie, who had just turned 4, began talking to someone in her room. At first, they chalked it up to imagination, but she was persistent. "He comes up from the floor when it's dark," she told them at breakfast. "He has no eyes, but he knows I see him." Jeff laughed nervously. Caroline didn't. Later that night, Caroline set a baby monitor in Ellie's room. At 2:12 a.m., she woke to a faint sound from the monitor. Static. Then breathing. Shaky, rasping, as if someone were lying on the floor, just out of frame. She rushed in. Ellie was asleep. But there were muddy footprints across the carpet. Small. Barefoot. They changed the locks. Called pest control. Even contacted the landlord. Kravis sounded surprised, but calm. "I had the place professionally cleaned before you moved in," he said. "But it's an old house. Might be pipe condensation." Caroline started keeping a journal. The entries became increasingly frantic. November 14th. Ellie says he comes from under the black door. There is no black door in the house. November 17th. Heard whispering through the vent in our room. Thought it was Jeff. He was asleep. November 20th. Woke to find all bedroom doors wide open. Every single one. November 22nd. Found the basement door open. We always keep it locked. One night, Jeff stayed up. He installed a motion camera in the hallway outside Ellie's door. He watched the live feed on his tablet in bed. At 2:46 a.m., the basement door creaked open by itself. On the screen, a figure crawled out. Not walked, crawled. It was thin, pale, almost hairless. Its limbs were bent backward. It moved like a spider, but slower. It stopped at Ellie's door. Then slowly, it turned to face the camera. Though it had no eyes. Jeff ran out with a bat, but the hallway was empty. The footage was gone. Corrupted. Caroline had enough. She begged Jeff to move out. He agreed. They called the landlord to break the lease early. Kravis paused on the phone, then quietly said, "You've seen him, haven't you?" They were silent. "You weren't supposed to see him," he whispered. "None of the others lasted this long." Jeff demanded answers. Kravis hung up. The next day, they packed. But that night was the worst. Ellie screamed around 3 a.m. Jeff and Caroline ran in. She was pointing at the vent. "He says he wants her now," she sobbed, pointing at the baby. Jeff pulled the vent cover off. Inside was a tunnel, Not just an air shaft, a man-made tunnel, covered in scratch marks, and deep inside it, a face, grinning, with no eyes. They grabbed their kids and fled. Police searched the house. The tunnel led nowhere, sealed off with rotted boards. They claimed it was part of an abandoned renovation. But they didn't explain the bones found in the crawl space, or the old ID they recovered in the furnace, burnt at the edges. Daniel Moss, a tenant who went missing 6 years ago. There were no charges, no suspects. The McClellans never returned. They now live in British Columbia under new names. Caroline doesn't sleep without lights on. Ellie doesn't speak much. But sometimes she draws pictures. All of them show a thin man with no eyes, crawling up through the floor,